My nickname's Electric Man.
He does things with electricity that would be life-threatening for normal people.
Next, please. As soon as I touch them, electricity flows through their body.
This is to release blockages and tension.
In today's video, I will reveal the hidden truth behind the famous superhuman battery man. This is Slaviša Pajkić, better known by his flashy nickname Biba Struja. This Serbian gentleman has spent decades astounding audiences as the man immune to electric shock. Touching live power lines with bare hands? No problem. Frying a sausage by running 220 volts through it while holding it? Easy. He's been dubbed the battery man and even the man of 20,000 volts. Biba's electrifying stunts have been featured on TV shows and even reality talent competitions. He claims he can withstand shockingly high voltages, shoot sparks from his fingertips, light up bulbs with his touch, and even cure illnesses with electric energy. Now, every superhero has an origin story, and Biba's begins in 1973, in a small Serbian locksmith workshop. At 17, while learning the trade, young Slaviša made a shocking discovery, literally. He found he could touch live electrical wires without feeling the usual pain or convulsions. Meanwhile, other apprentices who grazed those same wires got jolted as expected. Word spread that Slaviša had some mysterious immunity. In fact, his boss was so spooked by the teenager who didn't get electrocuted that he kicked him out of the workshop. By the early 1980s, he was performing in West German discotheques, showing off his ability to handle electric current like a party trick. In 1983, he earned a spot in the Guinness Book of Records as the man who can withstand a shock of 220 volts and higher. Although 220 volts is plenty impressive, but somewhere along the line, the story got exaggerated. Local media often claimed Biba survived 20,000 volts for his Guinness record. Then, in 2003, he made Guinness again by using his body to heat up water to near boiling faster than anyone else. He began claiming he could accumulate electricity inside his body and control voltage at will. Despite all the sensationalism, one fact was clear from the beginning. Biba Struja is not just an average person off the street. So in 2012, a team of young scientists in Belgrade, including researchers from Serbia's Institute of Physics and members of a science-promoting society, invited Biba to a controlled experiment. They effectively put the electric man under the microscope, measuring his body's electrical properties and having him perform his classic tricks under observation. What they found was illuminating. Biba has a very unusual skin physiology known as skin dysplasia. His skin is thicker and drier than normal and lacks sweat glands. He's also hairless over most of his body. In practical terms, his skin is extremely bad at conducting electricity, which, for him, is a good thing. His dry, thick skin without sweat, which is salty and conductive, means very high electrical resistance. Biba basically came with a built-in pair of rubber gloves. Using simple instruments, scientists measured Biba's body resistance and found it to be 10 times to 50 times higher than that of an average person. Think of electrical resistance as how strongly something opposes current flow. Ordinary humans have skin resistance on the order of tens or hundreds of thousands of ohms. Biba's skin resistance was measured around 1 million ohms, off the charts compared to normal. For context, a standard light bulb might have about 20 ohms of resistance, while a typical person might measure up to 100,000 ohms through dry skin. That's higher than many insulators. No wonder he could touch live wires. His skin resists the current so much that barely any flows through him. In simpler terms, electricity takes the path of least resistance. So when Biba is part of a circuit, his body is usually the most resistive path, so the current prefers to go elsewhere. He's effectively an insulator for moderate voltages. This was dramatically demonstrated in one of his famous tricks, sticking metal probes into an outlet and using his hands to connect a light bulb across them. The bulb lit up, yet Biba was unharmed. Because nearly all the current went through the 20-ohm light bulb rather than through Biba's mega-ohm skin, so his body barely carried any current at all. In the eyes of the circuit, Biba's body was like an almost infinite resistance. so the electricity ignored him. The researchers noted another telling detail during Biba's high-voltage demonstrations. Although Biba brags that he feels nothing from a 220-volt line and can even tell which wire is the live phase by touch. However, in practice, he never firmly grasps the live metal. He only gently brushes it, ensuring minimal contact. This is because light contact equals higher resistance, and if anything starts to feel tingly, he can reflexively pull away before a serious shock. By barely touching the live wires, Biba can actually break the circuit immediately if current starts flowing. But what about those claims of withstanding 20,000 volts? This is where understanding voltage versus current is key. Voltage is like the pressure pushing electricity, while current is the actual flow of electric charge. High voltage can be dangerous, but it's the current that actually does the damage to your body. Thanks to his high resistance, Biba manages to keep the current low even at moderately high voltages. Furthermore, many of the eye-popping voltage numbers thrown around in his demonstrations involve high-voltage, high-frequency devices, for example, Tesla coils or specialized transformers, that generate a lot of volts but at very low currents. As a result, 20,000 volts from a Tesla coil can glance over the skin without causing harm, whereas 220 volts from a wall outlet at 50 Hz is far more lethal if it drives significant current through vital organs. Biba's trick is that his skin prevents even the 220 volts mains from pushing much current through him. And when he plays with truly high voltages, it's usually in scenarios designed to limit the current. Armed with the knowledge of Biba's high skin resistance, scientists in Belgrade tested whether his superpowers could be faked. Researcher Nemanja Djordjevic put on basic latex gloves, nothing special, and repeated Biba's famous stunt, cooking a hot dog using 2 forks plugged into a 220-volt outlet. Wearing gloves, he grabbed each fork, becoming part of the circuit. The sausage sizzled. Nemanja didn't, because the electricity flowed through the sausage, which had lower resistance, not through him. The experiment proved that Biba's dry skin is just nature's version of rubber gloves. Next, the team tackled another crowd pleaser, Biba's lightning from the fingertips routine, where he stands on an insulated platform, 1 foot, and connects himself to a special high-voltage transformer. Suddenly, he can shoot a spark from his hand to dramatically ignite a piece of gasoline-soaked cotton. But the scientists replicated this too, and it turned out to be even easier than the hot dog trick, and gloves weren't even needed for this one. This is because when a person is connected to one terminal of a high-voltage transformer and stands on an insulated surface, their body becomes highly charged but remains safe due to the low current. In Biba's case, he's connected to such a transformer, and when he brings his finger near a grounded object, a spark jumps, igniting flammable cotton placed nearby. This is the same principle used in Tesla coil and electrostatic demos common in science museums. The DPPN science team, including physicist Dr. Milovan Shuvakov, reproduced the stunt using the same setup. Their only note was that Biba's lack of body hair slightly improves spark quality, but otherwise, anyone using a safe high-voltage, low-current source can perform this trick. Biba also uses Tesla coils in order to light ordinary bulbs or neon tubes by holding them near his body. These demonstrations, while visually impressive, are standard physics experiments. The high-frequency current travels over the skin or through the air and is safe when controlled. Biba's boldest claim was that he could charge himself like a battery and discharge electricity into others without any external power source. He'd rub his hands, strike a pose, then zap someone. If that were true, it would violate some fundamental physics. Human beings are not capacitors to any significant degree. We can hold a tiny static charge, like shuffling your feet on carpet and zapping a doorknob, but not the kind of sustained current to light bulbs or deliver therapeutic shocks at will. Yet Biba repeatedly performed this act, especially during his supposed healing sessions, leading many to wonder how he was doing it. The scientists in Belgrade wanted to know as well. During their examination, they politely but persistently challenged Biba on this accumulation ability. Initially, Biba was reluctant to demonstrate without the usual stage setup. but they insisted, and it wasn't long before Biba got caught. Here's how it went down. Before charging up, Biba strapped a belt around his waist and gave a member of the team a metal rod to hold, telling them it was for grounding. As Biba started his routine, the observers noticed he fumbled with the belt and seemed distracted, and that's when they noticed something was off. When pressed to remove the belt, Biba became evasive. Finally, under enough scrutiny, he reluctantly took it off. Lo and behold, inside the belt was a concealed high-frequency electrical generator. In plain terms, it was a hidden power source, basically a portable gadget that can generate an electric current with wires that ran to Biba and to the patient's electrode. It even had a dial to adjust the current strength. Now let's talk a bit about the pseudoscience aspect of Biba Struja's story. For years, Biba operated as an electric healer, offering what we might call shock therapy. Not the kind done in hospitals, but the DIY variety. He would put electrodes on clients, or even just use his hands and send currents through them. He advertised relief or cures for a laundry list of ailments: headaches, sinusitis, joint pain, rheumatism, sciatica, obesity, you name it. If that sounds too good to be true, that's because it is. There is zero credible scientific evidence that electric shocks from Biba, or anyone, can selectively melt fat or cure infections or permanently fix chronic conditions like rheumatism. Yes, electrical stimulation is used in legitimate physical therapy for certain things, like muscle stimulation or pain relief in some cases, but those are carefully calibrated treatments, and practitioners are licensed medical professionals. He even claimed some medical doctors referred patients to him. His justification for doing this without a license was basically, "I'm just helping people," and that he could tailor the shock therapy better than standard medical devices. This is classic quack logic, positioning oneself as an outsider with a special touch that outperforms science-based equipment. Thankfully, when Biba finally collaborated with the science team, they made it clear to him that continuing this pseudo-medicine without proper authorization was unacceptable. One hopes that message stuck. Here's another one of Biba's favorite party tricks: shocking a whole group of people just by having them hold hands. Now, sure, you might assume his gimmicked belt is doing the heavy lifting here, and you'd be right. But the execution has a pretty big flaw. Take a close look at the woman on Biba's left. She's not even touching his skin. She's holding onto the sleeve of his jacket. The problem here is, cotton is a terrible conductor. It's basically an insulator, which should break the circuit entirely. So unless she's holding onto something else, this whole group shock shouldn't work. Theoretically, if she had made direct skin contact, like the woman on his right, then, once the high-frequency generator kicked in, Biba could complete a closed circuit and send current flowing from one person to the next in the chain. That's how these demonstrations work. The current flows through each person, hand to hand, and eventually returns to either the generator or a grounding point. The sensation they feel is the high-frequency current riding along the surface of their skin. It tingles, maybe gives a little jolt, but it's mostly harmless. But here's the catch: if you zoom in on his jacket, you'll notice a white strip sewn into the outer edge of his sleeve. Now fast forward to another clip from the same event, when he performs the electrotherapy bit with the same volunteers. This time, he clips one end of a wire to that exact same white strip and hands the electrode to the group. Suddenly, it all makes sense. The woman wasn't just holding his sleeve for fun. She was grabbing the hidden grounding wire coming out of the generator. The current traveled through Biba's right hand, passed down the line of volunteers, and exited through the grounding wire disguised as part of his jacket, which she just happened to be holding. It's worth noting that Biba's case isn't unique in the world of so-called human curiosities. Many individuals with unusual physical traits or tolerance have been tempted into the role of miracle worker or superhuman, often egged on by those seeking to profit from the sensational. But as always, extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence, and in this case, the evidence eventually came, and it pointed to physics, not metaphysics.